Hey guys, it's Siobhan Muir. Just wanted to say good evening. How are you doing? Nice to see all y'all. And yeah, today I thought I would talk about. The other day I was going through. I don't remember what it was, but I was looking through some stuff, and someone mentioned that they were taught that they had um, were thinking about old music that they had grown up with, right? And all the places that had visited and kind of the famous people they had seen and that sort of thing. And I started thinking about it. And I thought about this music, and I found this old. Um, hey, Sarah, nice to see you. This old children's singer. He was a kid singer back when I was a kid. When I was in junior high and high school. And I remember he was also the uncle of a good friend of mine. So I remember helping her out at the concerts, selling T-shirts, selling pins, and various other things. I also helped. He was a children's singer, right? So he created these characters, and they actually built the costumes of these characters. And so I actually helped out by wearing one of the costumes. Musty Moldy Melvin was his name, and I looked like this huge moldy creature with beard and all this stuff. It was really very cool, and it took me back, and I started thinking about this artist. His name is Tim Noah, and he was actually a really, really talented musician and entertainer. And I remember thinking he was pretty impressive. And now 40 years later, has it been that long? My goodness. He's about 20 years older than I am. I thought about it. I thought, I think he's about 20 years older. Yep. He's 20 years older than I am. So, he's a little older than I am now. But he produced quite a bit of music. And I lost track of him after the time. But I bought a few of his CDs and tapes and things like over time. His very first thing that he produced was called "In Search of the Wow Wow Wibble Woggle Wazzy Woodle Woo," and that's where you meet Musty Moldy Melvin and Greasy Grimy Gertie and some of the other critters that he came up with. And I think I still have it. He had a rainbow satin hat that he wore. And he would sell these hats too, right? That was one of the things that we sold along with the T-shirts. And I still have one. I still have one of these hats 40 years later. It's in a box, but I still have it, right? Well, one of the things I was doing is that because I was thinking about that, I went online to see if I could find his music because, I used to have, hey, Chandra, nice to see you. I used to have all of his music. I used to collect it. It was, one of those things that it was back in the day when the CDs became a thing. The very first CD I ever bought, I bought before I had a CD player, right? Because we were always doing tapes. We didn't get into the 8-tracks, but we definitely got into the cassette tapes. And the very first CD I bought, I bought before I had a CD player. I had to go over to my best friend's house and listen to it because her dad had bought a CD player, right? So the very first CD I ever bought, I'll get back to Tim Noah in a minute, but the very first CD I ever bought was Icehouse, Man of Colors, right? It was the very first, because I loved this band. It was an Australian band, and I had to get the CD, and it was a big thing to go to the record store, to go to the music store, and look through all the tapes and then skip right to the CDs. Oh, I felt 100 feet tall that I was able to buy my very first CD. So Icehouse, Man of Colors. And I actually went to this concert. They came to Seattle, where I was living when I was a kid. And I got to go see these guys live in concert. So I love it. Isn't Electric Blue wonderful? Electric Blue, it was the song, man. So yes. It was the very first CD I bought, and I used to listen to it over and over and over again. And my best friend and I, we listened to it. It was our favorite band, and we would write down all the lyrics before they wrote down the lyrics, right? We would write them down. So I'm just saying. So it was pretty awesome. I have all sorts of memories of Icehouse, and we eventually bought all their CDs. Right, I have pretty much all the albums that I knew about and could find. So and every time we would go to the CD store, they call it a CD store now instead of the record store. But every time we went to a music store, we would go through and see if they had any new Icehouse CDs. Right, so I have them all, but this was the very first one. So Tim Noah. He did In Search of the Wow Wow Wibble Woggle Wazzy Woodle Woo, which if you get a chance to see it, it was a show. It was a musical movie. How's that? I totally recommend you watch it, especially because if you have kids, it's actually pretty cool and pretty entertaining. But after that, he did. He made a movie. He actually made a movie called Daredreamer. I have not been able to find a copy of it. I would love to get a copy of it. I'm actually in it as an extra. Don't get excited. I was actually in it. The very last scene is where he's on stage in a concert, and they're playing the concert. And so they were filming like he was at a real concert with a whole bunch of people. And I was right in front, and I had this ponytail on the very top of my head at the time. I had long hair. And so at this ponytail, and you could see the ponytail dancing, because like I said, we're all just silhouettes. Like I said, they just had people there. So my good friend who was his niece and me, we were right in front, and you could see this ponytail bouncing, and that's my ponytail. So I was in a movie. Yes, I was. Not that you could tell. There's no credit, so don't worry about it. Electric Blue stayed stuck in my head until I wrote, hey, see? Electric Blue is a darn good song. Just saying. But so I was in this movie. Now, again, don't get too excited. I was a silhouette. I was a silhouette, and it was a fun thing. But the movie had a soundtrack. It's called Daredreamer. There's the soundtrack, and one of the lines was "fishing in a teacup," and that's what he's doing. He's fishing in a teacup. So Daredreamer, fishing in a teacup. This is one of the best soundtracks to any movie. It was kind of like a musical movie, and it's about a young guy in high school who is kind of a nerd and a daydreamer, and he dreams about being a rock star. And so the whole story is kind of about him navigating high school and the girl that he really likes. But he's really very creative, but everybody, of course, makes fun of him because he's kind of a nerd, like we all were. And one of the things I found this movie and this soundtrack in particular very inspiring. Very inspiring to me as a young artist, because I used to draw a lot and a writer. This was a really inspiring soundtrack. So if you can get a hold of it, I had a tough time finding it, but thank goodness I have the CD. I would love to get a copy of the movie. So if anyone can find a copy of the movie, let me know. I would love to get one copy. But it was one of the most inspiring soundtracks I've ever heard. Daredreamer by Tim Noah, and it came out in 1987. I believe that's right. I think that's what it says, 1987. And I've never seen the movie come to back then it was VHS, but I've never seen the movie come to VHS or DVD. So if y'all can find a copy and let me know, I would love it. But it's one of the most inspiring soundtracks I've ever heard. And I love movies and I love soundtracks, but this one was really good. So Tim, well done. Very impressed. Still, 40 years later, very impressed. I'm really impressed. So yeah, gosh, it's been a long time. So that was one of the ones. And then a little later, 2 years later, he produced Cattywampus, which is this one right here. And it was more of his like children's music in a little way. One of the things that Tim is really good at, he always was story songs. Some of my favorite songs that I listen to are stories. They're the artist telling you something, telling you about stuff that happened, or places they've gone, or people they've seen, or magic that shows up in their lives. Tim was excellent at doing story songs. This one, Cattywampus is about living on a farm, and Country Store Country Store is a pretty darn good. It was one of his older songs that he put onto this album so that people, because Country Store was its own thing, and then he put it on this album so people could get a broader reach, and more people could read it. But a couple of my favorite songs on this one is I love The Great Potato Uprising. If you can get a hold of this, The Great Potato Uprising is pretty darn cool, because and Tim has a wide range of singing ability. He's a tenor. When he's really singing, he's a tenor, but he can get really low. And you hear it in The Great Potato Uprising. But my favorite song, a couple of songs that I really liked in this one was Because You're You, Keep On Keeping On, and Betty Rose. Betty Rose is a song that is no more than, I think, like 8 or 9 lines. Literally, that's all the lyrics there are to it. But there is such poignancy and magic in his storytelling ability that you can so totally picture what he's talking about just in those 8 or 9 lines of song. So he's really quite an artist, and I totally recommend, if you can get a hold of this one, even if you can get, I did find one place that was, I'm not sure if they were selling it or you had to buy a subscription and you could go in and listen to it, but they were offering his individual songs. And I was like, no, I'm pretty sure I have this CD. So if you get a chance to, I recommend looking up Tim Noah. I know he does now a musical theater somewhere in, I think, Washington, but he's really quite talented, and I totally recommend you listen to it. He has an amazing voice. There are some amazing lines in their songs. Yeah, yes, yeah, particularly in Icehouse. Icehouse is another really good, a good band, because they were also very environmentally inclined, and they were trying to get, and they were storytellers as well. I mean, if you read some of their lyrics in their songs, they are storytellers. Okay. So, but I'm going to go through kind of, as I said, this is musical memory lane. And the reason I suggest that is some of this music I have been listening to for a long time. Long time. Let me see. These are the 90s. These are the 80s. Yeah. So, of course, a lot of you know about, I don't know if you've heard recently, that the lead singer to Roxette had died. She was only in her 60s, I think, and she recently died. I was sad because Roxette was one of the late 91, yeah, one of the later 80s musicians, and they did Joyride, and they also did It Must Have Been Love, which is another song that they did for Pretty Woman. So it was, late 80s, early 90s sort of songs. And of course that was big when I was in junior high and high school, and that was my jam, right? So of course I got Roxette Joyride back in the day, and I got the CD because tapes were so 70s. I mean, you think about it, it's like, oh my gosh, we just listen to tapes all the time, but now we have CDs. They're so magical, and people are like, CDs, dude, do you even know about MP3s? No, but I'm gonna take all my CDs and make them MP3s. Why? I still a lot of my 80s music. I do too. All that 80s music. Heck yeah. Why do you think I still have the CDs? I love these things. And look how young they were back in the 80s. I mean, my goodness. We were all very young back then. So yeah, of course you get, Roxette Joyride and all their songs, and Fading Like a Flower. There was another one that we used to listen to. One of the actual first tape that I ever bought for myself, that we did not mixtapes, but the actual tape that I bought, because they used to do those, Columbia Music deals where you could order a bunch of tapes and a bunch of CDs, and they would send them to you every month, and you just picked ones and you would pay for it every month. Yeah, it's kind of like Spotify through the mail. That's kind of the way it was. And or what is it, Pandora, for whatever. Anyway, one of the first ones that I bought was Synchronicity by the Police. But a lot of their, of course, as they got more and more famous and they started moving into CDs, I ended up buying the Police Every Breath You Take singles. So all the singles like Roxanne and Can't Stand Losing You and Message in a Bottle and Walking on the Moon, Don't Stand So Close to Me, 1986, and Don't Stand So Close to Me back in the day too. So this is the CD version. Look how young Sting was. My goodness. I suddenly realized that Sting is about as old as my dad. But I loved his. I mean, he's still a magnificent musician. So I actually got to go to his concert. What year was that? Ooh, 1996, I think. I went to his concert. He was live at the Gorge George, and I went to see him live, and it was a great concert. But now I'm starting to think about it. I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy is as old as my dad. He's old enough to be my father, but he's a darn good musician, and I have a lot of his music. But this reminds me back of when I bought Synchronicity by the Police. Oh my God, his voice in Moonlight, yeah, isn't that wonderful? Oh, I know, he was quite a musician. He is quite. He's not dead, so I mean, he's still making music, but yeah, he's one of my favorite musicians too. And I liked it when he went solo. I have all of his solo albums because he really is. He's really a wonderful singer and songwriter. And the nice thing about his songwriter abilities is he too is a storytelling musician. There's going to be a theme here. I like storytelling songs. Therefore, the musicians that really have stuck with me are storytelling musicians. And since I'm a storyteller myself, you can kind of see why I have that kind of connection. There are 3 more bands that really made it into my 80s collection in that they were music that affected me while I was a kid and I would listen to them. I didn't bring it, but of course there's Def Leppard. Def Leppard was a big one. And Men Without Hats. Men Without Hats was a pop band that I loved. And so Pop Goes the World was their album that really stuck with me, and Men Without Hats. And then there was also, did I get it out? I didn't bring it. And then of course Men at Work, the Australian band that Johnny Be Good. And then Down Under, of course, but then there were the Thompson twins. These folks were really with me, like Lay Your Hands on Me, Hold Me Now, Doctor, Doctor, that sort of thing. Those are the pieces of music that really stuck with me from the Thompson twins. And obviously this is the best of, so there were several albums that I didn't get. I just got the best of because I just like the radio songs. You should check out Mike Cross's music if you like musical storytellers. Oh, I will definitely take a look at that, Sarah. The other one, of course, was Tears for Fears. Tears for Fears really made a huge impact on me, my listening music. I actually wrote an old story. Now, when I was in junior high and high school, I wrote my stories longhand. I wrote them out in, blank books, and I still have some of them. But one of the stories that I wrote, oh yeah, Def Leppard, Van Halen, Duran, of course, Duran, yeah. Hungry Like a Wolf, hello, yeah. Why do you think I write werewolves? And then this particular album, this is Sowing the Seeds of Love, is, I actually wrote several scenes to a paranormal fantasy story with romantic elements to this album. So, I mean, a lot of people say, oh, I have a playlist. This album really made a big difference on one of those stories. And there's this song called, let me see, which one is it? Oh, I don't know which one it is. I think it's Sword and Knives. I think was the one that I wrote this entire scene, kind of the big final climactic scene where the character dies at the end. So big scene into this album. So, again, the bands that tend to tell stories and to really get my muse talking to me. And so Sowing the Seeds of Love by Tears for Fears was one of the albums. And then, of course, Big Country, In a Big Country, was an album that, at least the lead song, In a Big Country, really grabbed my attention and totally sucked me in. And again, storytellers, what to do. So yeah, Midnight Oil is another one, but they came a little bit later in the 90s. But Midnight Oil is another Australian band who is big time storytellers and trying to get a more political message out to kind of get people aware of the problems that are facing our world and our planet. And yeah, Big Country, Midnight Oil, Duran, Def Leppard, Van Halen, Tears for Fears, the Thompson Twins, Roxette. Well, Roxette was a little later, but then as I got a little older and CDs became the thing, I moved on to They Might Be Giants. So in 1991, I believe, I went to see They Might Be Giants in Summerfest. Summerfest had a whole bunch of bands, playing. And so we went, and They Might Be Giants was one of them. They Might Be Giants later on has done the song, I Am a Paleontologist, because here I am, here I am, here I am. So I love They Might Be Giants, mostly because they're snarky and obnoxious, and they're great. I love that. They make me laugh. They are right up there, actually, with the Canadian band, the Barenaked Ladies. I have gone to several of these guys' concerts. I have seen them, I don't know, 5 or 6 times, because I love the Barenaked Ladies. I think they're awesome. And my best friend, who used to listen to Icehouse with me, she got me hooked on these guys, and we would go to the concerts together. My bestie is such a big country fan. He has made friends with them. Wow. And he goes to concerts and gets pics with the members. That is really awesome, Chandra. Okay, I'm terribly envious. That's really cool. So, yeah. So, these two guys, both of them are kind of snarky and humorous. They do songs that make you go, what did he say? And they're, pinch me. Yes, pinch me. And, gosh, I love this was Stunt. I think Stunt was like the first album I went to the concert for. Nah, it couldn't have been that one. It must have been earlier than that. But the point is, I love these. And the other day I was listening to the radio, and one of the songs, Pinch Me, came on. And I loved it. These folks, both of them, They Might Be Giants and the Barenaked Ladies, are snarky and sarcastic, and I love it. And that's what makes me laugh. They make me laugh all the time. So, as I mentioned earlier, I am a big fan of Sting. This album is called Brand New Day, came out in the year 2000. It was talking about the change in the millennium, how everything's shifting, and we need to look at things in a brand new way. And so Brand New Day came out, and it's one of my favorite Sting albums ever. I love it. Again, he's old enough to be my dad, but he's really a wonderful musician, and I love his music. The songs that I really love is Desert Rose and 1,000 Years. Those are some of my favorite songs. But of this album. But I also like Brand New Day a lot. So this album, the reason why I'm holding this one up, because I've loved Sting for a long time, is because this is the album that really got me started in graduate school. I was in graduate school in the year 2000, and this really kind of set the tone for my graduate school years. It got me started. I can still remember where I was when I was reading to this song. I could see my old, room where I had roommates and all this. It was really it was really a magnificent album, and it really stuck with me. I mean, these are the songs that I like. Oh yeah, I remember when that happened, and I was sitting out in my front yard under the aspens turning golden in the fall as I was studying for finals and stuff like that. So this album really stuck with me for graduate school, and it was one of those things. It was like, oh yeah, I remember that. I was wearing my purple fleece, which I still have, and I was sitting out in the front lawn as the aspen leaves were falling and turning golden, and listening to this album. So these are the memories that these albums kind of start with. Going back a little bit earlier, back into undergraduate, there were two albums, or two groups really, that kind of stuck with me through. I mean, there was Enigma. Do you remember Enigma? It's kind of instrumental music with Gregorian chants. So there was Enigma. And then Stan Ridgeway. My first boyfriend introduced me to Stan Ridgeway. And, you know, he's a storyteller. Hello. Why do you think I like it? I love the storyteller. So he introduced me to Stan Ridgeway, and my favorite song, and his favorite song was called Camouflage. And it was a story about a young Marine caught in Vietnam and how he was rescued by the ghost of another Marine. And it's a great story. And I love this song, right? So I'm listening, I listened to it, and I put it on a mixtape or a mix CD. And my kids, okay, now I'm older than dirt, and I have children now. And I was playing it in the car, and my kids would say, Mom, go back, let's play that one again. And they love that song because, again, it's a story about magic and ghosts, and, you know, at the end, the young kid survives. So if you ever get a chance to Stan Ridgeway, he also, for a long time, he did some solo albums, but then he joined a group called Walla Voodoo. Walla Voodoo. So he was the lead singer in that one, and he did I'm on a Mexican radio, whoa. I'm on a Mexican, whoa, radio. So Walla Voodoo did Mexican radio, and that's Stan Ridgeway. And but if this one's called Mosquitoes, I believe Mosquitoes is the one that has Camouflage on it. And it's not going to tell me. But yeah, if you can get a hold of Stan Ridgway's work, you can find Camouflage, and it's one of the best songs. The other one, of course, is Dire Straits. Everyone likes the Sultans of Swing. And of course, who can forget I Want My MTV with Sting. Of course, Sting was there in the background singing, I want my MTV. But Dire Straits, I really enjoy their music. I like it because, again, they're storytellers, but they're also kind of got this gravelly voice. Mark Knopfler and his gravelly voice as he sings. Totally worth it to me is to listen to these. And now it's like going through my old music. You know, we went to MP3s, right? And we've stopped listening to, and we got new music. I mean, we got all sorts of new artists coming up that I really do love. But you know, there's something to be said for some of this old music, like Stan Ridgeway and Dire Straits and Roxette and Sting and the Police and Barenaked Ladies and They Might Be Giants, Thompson Twins, Tears for Fears, the Police, and Tim Noah. So, you know, it's kind of fun to go through these old things. And today I put them in the CD player because I've got these old CDs. And I put them in the CD player, and my kids are like, oh, this is really cool, Mom. What are we listening to? Old, ancient music that's 40 years old now. Or 35. So, yeah. These are my favorites, obviously. Other people have other favorites, but these are mine. And I can recommend all of them. But they're storytellers. And me, as a storyteller, really appreciate storytellers of other ability and other media. Well, both of them work. The idea here is that these are storytellers, along with Def Leppard. I really like Def Leppard. I like Van Halen. I like Duran. I liked, what is it? You know, when I was in junior high, there was these girls that loved Depeche Mode, and they would listen to him over and over again. And then when I went to college, there were these girls that loved REM. By the way, it's the end of the world as we know it, and that's a perfect song to be listening to this year, even though it's about 35 years old. But oh, and they just as a hint, they do mention Donald Trump in there. Just saying. Oh, and Queen, of course, Queen. Yeah, Queen's a great one. Bohemian Rhapsody, of course, is everybody's favorite. But did you know that, what was that song? It was originally the song was written for Elvis, and Queen, or Freddie Mercury sang it because he has amazing range. And it sounded a lot like something Elvis would do, except that Elvis never sang it. It was Freddie Mercury. What was it? Something about love. Oh, like I can't think of the words. I can't think of the lyrics, but it's perfect. I've been watching a bunch of Korean dramas, and my greatest new find is Korean alternative called Nell. Also storytellers. Oh, nice. Amazing music and lyrics. Oh, Nelly says Blondie. Yeah, Blondie. Yeah, I was thinking of all of these things. The reason why we love the 80s music is a lot of them were stories. And they were told a story, not just of love or loss, or, you know, they actually told stories. And that's why people love the 80s music. So when people say, why does everybody say the 80s? They were storytellers. We got real stories in music, and then we can repeat them, and the lines stuck with us. One of my favorite songs, though, from the 90s was called the band was Too New, right? Too New, and the song is called Ponderous. And I remember it because, like, aren't you supposed to be at work? You know, so it was another storytelling song, and it's weird. It's off the wall. I love it. And I let my kids listen to it. They love it too. So, see? Storytelling. Crazy little thing called love. That's what it is. Crazy little thing called love. It totally sounds like something Elvis would do, and Elvis turned it down, and Freddie Mercury sang it instead. So there you go. That's what we're talking about, why we're talking about music back in the day. Music memory lane. All these bands that we loved back in the day. Ta-da! So, thank you all. Oh, one of the things that Tears for Fears did, I don't know if you ever saw the movie Real Genius, but Tears for Fears did the song Everybody Wants to Rule the World, and they put it at the end of Real Genius. So, you know, storytelling songs. I hope you guys have enjoyed this little talk of mine, Saturday Evening Soliloquy, and thank you for joining me when you came. How today are the lyrics? Don't dream it's over. I know. Harry Chapin, yeah. So I totally recommend, these musics, obviously. And thank you for joining me today. And I will be live again tomorrow, sometime between 10 and 11 a.m. Mountain Time for the Sunday morning tea. I have no idea what we're going to talk about. Shoot, I didn't even know I was going to talk about music today, but I came up with that. So I hope you'll join me then. It's usually somewhere between, like I said, 10 and 11 a.m. Mountain Time, which is 9 and 10 Pacific, 10 11 Mountain, 11 and 12 Central, and 12 and 1 Eastern. And well, I'm sure we'll talk about something. But thank you for joining me. I'm so glad to have seen y'all. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you want more memory lane music. Subscribe to my channel and click that little bell that's up there that says that, hey, she's got a new post. Go look at it. Anyway, I hope you will do that, and I hope to see you next weekend. During this pandemic that we're dealing with, I'm going to be live, and I will talk to you later. Have a great one. Bye.